The sheriff came riding up. He spoke to Colt on the porch. He said folks were uneasy. He said children needed a woman with a proper place. Marbell folded a blanket and listened. Colt said little. The sheriff rode away. That night, Josie asked if they were bad. Marbell told her no. She said she was not their mother, but she was here and she wanted to be. Josie cried anyway. Later, Marbell stood on the porch with Colt. She asked him what she was there. He told her what she did. He did not name her place. She asked if he would ever ask her to stay. He asked if she would say yes. She said not yet. She said she needed to remember who she was first. He accepted that. A storm came without warning. Wind howled. Snow fell thick and wet. The twins ran for the barn. Josie lost a carving by the creek and went looking for it. Marbell went after her despite the cold biting deep. She found Josie huddled behind a rock, shaking, crying over the lost wooden bird. Marbell pulled her close and told her she mattered more than any carving. She carried her home through the storm, legs burning, breath thin. Colt opened the door before they reached it. He took Josie into his arms and looked at Marbell like she had brought back something sacred. That night, by the fire, Colt told her the bird was the first thing he had made since his wife died. Marbell told him she never got to bury what she lost. Only ash remained. He listened. He showed her a small box. Inside were names that girls had written trying to spell hers. Crooked letters. Backward shapes. But hers. Marbell placed her burned wedding ring on the mantel. She said she had been someone else once. Colt asked who she was now. She said she did not know, but she thought the girls did. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, the fire burned steady. And though the town watched and whispered, something in that house had already begun to take root, quiet and stubborn, like a promise no storm could easily erase. Spring opened the land the way a wound slowly learns to heal. Mud clung to boots. Fence posts leaned. The air smelled of wet earth and new grass. With the thaw came people. Wagons rolled again. Doors opened, and tongues loosened. Marbell felt it in town before she heard it spoken. Eyes lingered too long. Smiles tightened. Her name moved from mouth to mouth like something being tested for weakness. She did not stop going. She bought flour and needles. She stood straight. She came home. One afternoon, 3 men rode up to the gate. Their horses were strong. Their faces were not kind. At the front was Hiram Blass, a neighbor who had always measured others by what he could take from them. Colt was chopping wood when they arrived. Marbell was shaking out a quilt on the porch. The twins were inside threading buttons onto string. Hiram tipped his hat and smiled thin. He said the town was uneasy. He said it did not look right. A woman living in a man's house without a name to back it. He said children needed order. He said land disputes had a way of returning when folks stopped acting proper. Colt stood still, axe resting in the stump. He said nothing. Marbell stepped down from the porch. Her voice did not shake. She said she had earned her place with work and care. She said she had knelt in mud to find a child in a storm. She said names written on paper had never kept anyone warm at night. Hiram laughed once and said the town would be watching. After they left, Marbell's knees gave out, not from fear, but from the weight of standing up after so long bent low. Colt said nothing then, but that night when the girls were asleep, he sat across from her at the table. He said they would come again. She said she was tired of running from people who had never built anything worth defending. She laid her burned marriage paper on the table. She said she had lost more than a husband and a child. She had lost the name that made her real in the eyes of others. Colt took down his late wife's apron from the hook. He held it out to Marbell, not like a memory, but like a choice. He said the house needed a woman who stayed when it got hard. Marbell tied the apron around her waist. The cloth fit like it had been waiting. The next morning, the twins placed 2 wooden birds on the porch rail. One was chipped, one had a crooked wing. June said they were for luck. Josie said they were for staying. Word spread faster than spring rain. Some said Colt planned to marry her. Some said he would not. Some said she was clever. Others said she was trouble. Then the sheriff came again. This time he did not bring warnings. He brought papers. He said a hearing had been called. The town wanted answers. Marbell went pale, but she did not hide. On the day of the hearing, the church filled fast. Benches creaked, murmurs rose and fell. Marbell stood beside Colt at the front. The twins sat behind them, feet swinging, hands locked tight together. Mrs. Tibbet spoke first. She said Marbell had no claim, no ring, no blood, no record. She said children needed certainty. Others followed, some kind, some cruel, some afraid of change they could not name. When it was Marbell's turn, the room went quiet. She did not speak long. She said she had nothing left to lose but the place she had built with her hands and heart. She said a home was not walls or paper, but the people who chose to stay when storms came. Colt spoke then. His voice was steady and plain. He said Marbell was his choice. He said the girls chose her every morning. He said if the town could not see that, then the fault was not hers. Silence followed, heavy, waiting. The sheriff cleared his throat. He said there was no law against what they had done. He said kindness was not a crime. He said the matter was closed. The room did not cheer. It did not need to. Some faces softened, others hardened, but the door was open. That night, Colt and Marbell sat on the porch while the girls slept. The air was warm for the first time. Frogs called from the creek. Colt said he had a ring now, not a fine one, just honest metal. He said he would ask properly if she wished. Marbell looked out at the dark fields. She thought of Ash in silence and walking alone through snow. She thought of small arms hugging her waist. She thought of a name spoken out loud. She said yes. They married quiet. No crowd. Just the girls, the creek, and a sky wide enough to hold forgiveness. June dropped buttons instead of flowers. Josie cried and laughed at the same time. Marble took the name McCrae, but she kept her own too. She did not bury who she had been. She carried her forward. Years later, people would say the house near the cottonwoods was the warmest place in winter. They would say the twins grew strong and kind. They would say the woman who arrived with soot on her skirt became the heart of the place. But Marble knew the truth. She had not been saved. She had been chosen, and she chose back.